Hey guys, how's it going? So you want to start a JP account on FGO. With part 2 of the FGO story coming to a close and the likely start of either part 3 or part 2.5 coming either this year or next, now is the perfect time to get into the JP scene. Problem is, it can be a bit daunting for people who have no idea where to start. Well, you're in luck. Today I'm going to break down the basics of how to play FGO JP from your computer or non-Japanese device, and what you should do once you get that account up and running. I will timestamp each part of this video, so if there's just one thing you need to jump to, go ahead and skip to that now. Anyway, let's get to it. So, to begin, you actually have a couple of options on how to get the FGO JP app. Let's start with phones. If you have an Android, it's pretty cut and dry simple. You simply need to get the APK files and install them onto your Android device. This will give you access to the game, but you will only be able to update it by downloading new up-to-date APK files, which means that you'll probably have to wait a little bit for those files to become available. My suggested way to get these files is either through the website APK Pure or through the Atlas Academy Discord server. I recommend the Atlas Academy Discord version, as it is less likely to have corrupted files. Also, that's just a good one-stop shop for all things FGO related if you're interested. But let's touch on that corrupted file thing real quick. There is a chance that the APK files that you install are going to be corrupted, which can only really be fixed by uninstalling the game and then reinstalling it with a different file. There is a way to preserve your save, but you will save yourself a lot of time and grief by just remembering to bind your account and saving that information somewhere, preferably not on the bugged device. So, my personal advice from personal experience would be to wait before immediately installing the new APKs and checking to see if there are any reported bugs before installing. Believe me, your waifu banner will still be there when you install it if it happens in 1 minute or 5 hours. If you choose to ignore all the previous advice and find that you have lost your account and want to get it back, FGO does have a great account recovery system. Just know that you will have to fill it out in Japanese. If you need Japanese translations of servant names for account recovery, the fandom site has all of them there. But that is the cut and dry version of how to obtain and install FGO on an Android. It's very simple. If you are going to be using an emulator for your computer to play FGO, just know that most emulators are Android based, so boom, you now know how to install FGO onto your emulator as well. It's that simple. On a non-Japanese Apple account, it gets a bit more tricky, mainly because you can't really do it. While I am sure that there is a way to install a game that isn't on the App Store onto your iPhone or iPad, the easier way to do it is this. Just make a new Apple ID with the country set to Japan. This can be done with a burner or side email, but will require that you sign out of your current Apple ID. Once you have signed in with your country now set to Japan, you have access to the Japanese App Store and you can install FGO JP. Be aware that if you have an NA account on your phone, it may get overwritten by the JP one, and you will also not be able to access your NA account or other apps because they are not on the Japanese App Store. As such, I don't recommend doing this on an iPhone unless you have no other options. Finally, we have my preferred method, which is to use an emulator. There are several emulators that you can use to emulate a phone, and again, most use the Android as the base model. The big three that you'll see people talk about are BlueStacks, the Nox Player, and LD Player. Of these, I have used 2. I couldn't even get the Nox emulator to launch properly, so I'm going to immediately say don't use that one, but that is very likely entirely user error. Here's a live reaction of me using BlueStacks. BlueStacks would constantly stutter and flash at me and also crash at random. If you want a good example of what that looks like, check out my heavily edited Bazit rolls. LD Player, on the other hand, runs perfectly. It's simple and easy to use, doesn't install a second version of itself like BlueStacks did, and the only consistent problem I've had with it is that it will occasionally crash the game, but it's so infrequent that I can't really complain about it. So, I would personally recommend LD Player. Once it is installed, you have 2 options. Either follow the steps that I mentioned for the Android part, or make a Japanese Google Play account and use that. I honestly recommend the Japanese Google Play option because it skips over needing to install APK, because this isn't your actual phone, so you won't be hindered by the fact that your App Store is JP limited. This will save you all kinds of trouble, so you can just install FGO JP straight up with no BS and not have to worry about the files being corrupted. You should still bind your account though. Now for the elephant in the room. I can't speak Japanese. What should I do? Well, I'm going to run on the assumption that you have played FGO NA or a version that is in your native language. It means that you likely already understand how to play the game and navigate the HUD and menus. If you need information on what character skills do, CE abilities, noble phantasms, etc., I highly recommend the Atlas Academy, the GamePress.gg site, and the FGO fandom site to get this info. Atlas Academy is usually the quickest on the draw for gameplay related translations, so I highly recommend using them if you need new information quick. GamePress and fandom are both easy to navigate and will give you the info that you need as well. Of course, if you are still lost, installing a translation app that can translate images like Papago can be useful in a pinch, albeit much slower. If you want to read through the story on FGO on JP, I recommend the YouTube channel Neo Benedict for quick and accurate translations, or if you want to participate in the story directly, Translate FGO is an app that can be installed onto Android and iOS devices that will translate events and story. As of writing this, they have translated most of what has happened in FGO JP and are almost fully up to date with The Lost Belt 7. It also comes in more languages than just English, but I believe that English is the focus language, so other language translations may be just a touch slower. That said, it's a good service, and if you're watching this video, I'm going to assume that you can read English to a degree. After all of that is said and done, you are finally able to play FGO JP and read its story in English. But the video isn't going to end there, my friends. So, my personal JP account will turn a year old this month, so I feel somewhat qualified to give advice on what to do when starting a brand new account. As of writing this, I'm working my way through Lost Belt 5.5 on JP, and I'm going to be aiming to get fully caught up on the story soon. FGO JP has an updated roster of potential 4-star servants that you're guaranteed a copy of at least one in your tutorial summon. These are Lakshmi Bai, Suna, Emiya, Zenobia, Liz, Valkyrie, Astolfo, Dobrynia, Nitocris, Cersei, Steno, Yan King, Heracles, and Tomacat. This list was updated relatively recently and also prevents you from summoning 5 stars in the starting pool now. However, you can still roll multiple 4 stars. The standout servants here are Nitocris, Suna, Emiya, and of course Heracles. Nitocris is one of the best farming casters in the game and is a rare case of a servant able to take advantage of her instant death ability. Emiya is a powerful AoE archer who can loop thanks to his buff to his NP. Suna is a solid single target saber who specializes in anti-demonic, making him amazing for part 1 where there's so many demons all over the goddamn place. And of course to this day Berserker is strong, isn't he? I want to take a moment and dwell on that point. As time goes on, people have been coming out of the woodwork and saying that Heracles does not live up to the hype and that he's only good with his Bond CE. These are the same people who believe that FGO is 90% farming and that you should skip the story to get cores to roll faster. In other words, half-wits. Do not listen to those people. Herc, even today, will carry you through all of part 1, all of part 1.5, and through the vast majority of the Lost Belts by himself. By the time that you reach the Lost Belt, you are pretty much guaranteed to have unlocked his Bond CE, which only makes Herc more powerful. Believe in the power of Oonga Boonga Buster cards. These are your high tier summons. Pretty much everyone else is solid in their own right and can help you get through the story fairly well. The only low roll here is Steno. Yan King at the very least has received enough buffs that make him a pretty decent single target assassin, albeit a weak one. But Steno is a support servant that only supports divine servants, so unless you're playing the long game to screw over Gawain and Camelot, this is the only servant that I would say to reroll on if that's something that you're willing to do. That said, she is still usable and I personally advise against rerolling, mostly because I think it's more fun to work with the hand that you dealt with. The other aspect of JP that is worth mentioning is that you are given a free 5-star servant at the start as well. This is the list of 5 stars that you can choose from. The most notable of these is Waver, who you are going to want to pick 99% of the time, just because he trivializes the beginning of the game. Of course, waifus and husbandos are more important than meta, so pick whoever that you want, but if you'd like to know who I would say to pick if you're not willing to go for waifus and husbandos, I would say pick Waver, Tamamo, Sanzo, Ozymandias, Artoria, Shitonai, Jack, Ku Alter, or Osakabe Hime. Tamamo and Osakabe Hime are amazing support, with Tamamo able to allow for arts looping as well as keeping a team alive for stall comps, plus she has certain traits tied to her that allow her to solo certain content in the future. Osakabe Hime is a crit support for Buster and Quick servants who also has buff removal. She flies a little bit under the radar these days, but is still a valuable servant nonetheless. Sanzo is a rare instance of a single target caster that actually does damage, so she's a reliable choice for boss killing. Ozymandias is one of the best riders in the game, if not the best rider in the game, with team support and crazy single target damage in his kit. Artoria is the epitome of a Buster beatstick, and she can take care of most of the game's early content for you. Shitonai is an alter ego, meaning that she is good against all of the cavalry classes, which is amazing because the early game loves throwing riders and casters at you. Jack is a great single target assassin specializing in killing females, but she also works as a solid star gen and emergency medic. Ku Alter is a nearly unkillable berserker, very similar to Herc. I foresee him getting a buff in the future to his first skill, so maybe be on the lookout for that. All of the 5 stars on the ticket are great, so again, follow your heart. These are just my suggestions, but if you deeply love like Nightingale or Zhang Yu, don't let me stop you from picking them. The added bonus for you is that as of recording this, you are also given a limited special ascension. This allows you to max ascend one servant for absolutely nothing. No materials required on your part. You are going to want to throw whatever 5-star you pick into that, and they will carry you through the first few singularities pretty much on their own. You'll be given a ton of mats and quartz just for starting a new account, but you want to prioritize those towards your 4 stars. Now that we have spent all of our gold, let's look at our bronze and silvers. A lot of who you should be leveling first for your 1 to 3 stars relies almost entirely on your starting gacha. So by class, here are the servants that I would recommend that you level first regardless of who you pull. For sabers, I recommend leveling Jason and Caesar. Jason works as a decent arts farmer with some built built-in team support, namely a targetable evade that is always nice. Caesar is a great single target budget saber with crit support and decent star gen. For archers, level Arash as fast as possible. He is going to be your best friend for budget farming, and he will make your life more convenient. Robin and Uriel are also good options for arch single target DPS. I think that Uriel should be level first for the early game, and Robin second for the mid to late game. Also, honorable mention is David, who works as a good team support. Lancers, you should level Ku and Leonidas. Ku is still the unkillable deity of FGO even today, and they just keep making him better. With the addition of the quick buff, relating with a quick card gives an auto 20% chance to crit to all cards and a triple quick attack giving 20 stars. Ku is just getting better and better. Leonidas serves a decent wall and buster support, so he's good for keeping a team alive. His one issue is that he needs his NP to get going, and outside of his one skill, that can be kinda hard for him. For assassins, you really only need a level 100 Faces. She is a self-sufficient budget arts assassin that will carry you through most of the early game content. If you're a bit more cultured though, Kojiro does a similar thing but is cheaper. In fact, I'd say that if you grailed Kojiro to 100, he becomes one of the best assassins in the game. Kojiro's skills are all incredibly overpowered for his star level, so being able to slap those on a body that doesn't get one hit by a lucky crit makes him a monster. His big drawback is of course the fact that he's a 1-star servant, so 100 Faces is just more consistent than him without grails. For riders, you have your choice of single target DPS in either Ushiwakamaru or Mandricardo. Both are amazing boss killers and partial team supports, with Mandricardo noticeably being able to loop his NP in certain contexts. That said, however, I prefer Ushi with her current buff on JP, which makes her a monster crit unit who deals out insane single target damage, but I'm also biased. George is another standout servant that should be leveled because George is just an amazing tank unit. You can bring him to most boss fights to eat up 3 turns and charge up your actual DPS's NP gauges. Casters are kind of hard to recommend, so I'm going to break down this list into level regardless and level based on who your tutorial summon was. Regardless of tutorial, Hans is a must level. He is useful in so many contexts, even into the late game, so yes, even on JP you're still going to want to level Hans. Paracelsus is in this list as well because Paracelsus enables budget farming, which you can do with Jason and some other budget art servants. If you rolled a buster-centric servant, level Chen Gong and Shakespeare first. Both of them will enable massive buster damage and provide NP charge to that unit. While Shakespeare is in need of some love from Lasagna, Chen Gong is an absolute unit of a support servant. If you rolled an arts unit, level Mozart. Mozart is a great arts and crit star support who makes hitting things hard easier. Finally, if you pulled a quick servant, level Zhangzhu. Zhang is a new addition to the game and fills in for the need for a budget quick caster. While he may not be able to enable servants to loop, he has a party-wide arts and quick up, a targetable 100% damage up with a star bomb and a cleanse, and a self battery that has a chance to alter the field. He also can make stars with his AoE quick NP. With the addition of the quick changes, he helps to enable quick DPS so incredibly well that I would actually advise against rerolling for servants like Astolfo. For Berserkers, I still believe that your best budget options are Spartacus and Lu Bu. Spartacus is an unkillable monster with insane self-sustain, who can also wave clear when farming. Lu Bu is a single target buster beatstick who is best used to blow away one unit with his incredibly hard hitting NP and then leaving. A good Berserker can carry you pretty far in the early game, so keep that in mind. For the extra classes, naturally you will want to level Mash immediately. Mash should get all of your first crystallized lores to max out her skills. Mash can fit into all but the most hyper-specific teams. Cost 0 has incredible standard skills, and as of Lost Belt 7 can dish out some devastating damage in her Orthodox form. People who do not like Mash are the same people who skip the story and throw a temper tantrum because force supports exist in this game. Mash is hands down one of the best units in the game and should be leveled accordingly, but we are not finished with the extra class yet. As of 2022, Zhu Fu has joined the roster as a budget alter ego. Zhu Fu is a ridiculously powerful art and crit support. In fact, I would say you're going to want to level her over Mozart. She has a partial cleanse with a heal and star gen up, party-wide arts and crit up for 3 turns with a crit down for enemies, a targetable battery that lets her simp for Consort U, and an NP that heals her and gives her a 5-turn 20-star star generator. She is a self-sufficient star farm that helps your party survive and hit harder, that also counterclasses all of the cavalry. She is one of the best supports in the game at the moment for budget teams, and the fact that she is a 3-star in the standard gacha makes her incredibly valuable and easy to obtain. Don't sleep on Zhu Fu unless you're against Consort U, in which case she won't be doing anything for you. So that is my leveling recommendations. Other things that you should know about JP that are different from NA at the moment are the blue apples. You can convert excess AP into blue apples so that they don't go to waste. One of the fun things about starting a new FGO account is that you are bound to be drowning in AP because you level up so fast. There was a point recently when I had 2000 AP. What you can do is convert that into blue apples, that way your natural AP gen doesn't go to waste. As for how to play FGO JP, well, that's that's entirely up to you. I would recommend against spending money on both a JP and NA account. Either do one, the other, or neither, unless you can feasibly financially support that, and even then I wouldn't recommend it. Otherwise, the only thing I would recommend spending money on is the GSSRs, when you know you're guaranteed to get something. Part of the fun of having a JP account is not knowing what's going to come next. It lets you play the speculation game and participate in all the theory crafting of what could possibly be happening. I'll close this out by giving some advice on where to turn for more information regarding the game if you're ever stuck and want to learn more. I think the best place to go for that is various FGO streamer and YouTuber Discord servers. There you can get fast information about the game. A lot of those servers will have a help section for new players and a relatively welcoming community that you can join the game with. For more quick access information, the 3 sites I mentioned prior are all good sources, but there are more than just those. Personally, I like the Atlas Academy and the fandom site for game info. Finally, take every single tier list that you see with a grain of salt. Everybody who's making a tier list has a personal bias as to how they think the game should be played, or how they enjoy to play the game. There is only 3 truths in every tier list as of the writing of this video. Castoria is the best unit in the game, MASH is the best budget unit, and Herc is very strong. That's it. Everything else is speculative. And that's it. Hopefully you found this somewhat helpful. Let me know down in the comments. If you know someone who's interested in starting a JP account, send them my way. If you really like this video, consider doing the YouTube stuff to support the channel. Check my links for my Discord, Twitch, and Twitter. But for now, guys, keep your chin up. Peace.